Hikeeba, folks. This is Pete58, and it's time for a new edition of Bad Movie Reviews. Now, the movie we're going to talk about in this video is it's really bad. It's called In a Dark Place. It's a British film from 2006 and stars Leelee Sobieski. Now, she was the it girl when I was in high school about 20 some odd years ago. She did a couple of movies that were popular that people liked. Eyes Wide Shut, she had a small part in that. It might have been one of her first roles. She did some other movie with Drew Barrymore. Never Been Kissed, I think it was called. She was, the big thing. She was on the cover of Rolling Stone a long time ago. I think it was in 99 or 2000 she was on the cover. She bears a striking resemblance to Helen Hunt. First time I saw her as a kid, that's who I thought she was, or maybe related to her, but I don't believe they're related in any way, though they do look a lot alike. Now, the movie In a Dark Place it's beyond bad, and I don't think I'll be able to give away any spoilers. I mean, I probably could, but the movie is very, very confusing. The story is actually based on a Henry James novel, Turn of the Screw. That's an old, popular Gothic novella from the 1890s, somewhere around there. And it's a popular story. I probably read it back in high school. It's been a long time, but I remember it. It was a really popular horror ghost story, and that's what this movie In a Dark Place is based on. Excuse me. And I don't remember enough from the book to be able to be like, oh yeah, I can see. So it was like going into this movie was fresh. Like I said, I don't remember if I read Turn of the Screw, but it doesn't really matter. Something threw me off when they said she was working in the Bly house. I'm like, the Bly house? And then, I didn't even think of it, but even though the name rung a bell in my brain, I didn't really think about it, and I found out later that it was based on Turn of the Screw. But I'll give you a rundown of the movie, and if you're into bad movies, like I am, there are some that are enjoyable to watch, and there are some that aren't enjoyable to watch. And this, I'm going to warn you, it's probably one of the ones that you probably won't enjoy because, unless you're a Henry James fan and, you'll get the references. Like the Bly House was the only one I caught, but like I said, it's been so long since I read that. If I'd read it, in the time since high school, I guess you don't have to have read it, or maybe you should, because this movie was just so confusing. It starts with Miss Sobieski. She plays Anna Veigh. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I'm pretty sure I am. She's an art teacher in some prestigious school, and she gets, I guess, sexually assaulted by an older teacher, a headmaster. And that's another thing I want to address. This movie has a lot of dark themes. There's rape, there's sexual assault, there's assault towards children, physical assault, just a lot of, dark themes. And it's, with all these dark themes being centered around this ghost story, you would think that it has the solid premise to, be a scary movie, especially if it's based on a Henry James novel. But, with all these dark themes and the potential there is just, it's gone to waste because we don't understand. I didn't understand when I saw it, why, she left her job. She was teaching at a prestigious boarding school. And, her boss comes in, and you can tell there's some kind of inappropriate things he's doing to her. And, for some reason, she's the one who, oh, you're going to go work for, a rich guy. So the movie continues with her going to this big house, meeting first just the little girl, and this woman that Miss Grose. She's she's basically their uncle's secretary, not the dad. The parents are dead. These children are being raised by a rich uncle in this big house, and this woman, Miss Grose, yes, Miss Grose. She's sort of his secretary, but sort of her second, her right-hand man, I guess you would call it, because he's not in the rest of the movie. He's in it for like 2 minutes, and he's like, "Don't bother me for anything," and he just splits. You never see him again. And so it's just basically Leelee, Sobieski, Anna, and Miss Grose. I'm not sure what Miss Grose's deal is, because she's just she's kind of a mean lady. I mean, she's older than Leelee Sobieski, probably by like 10 years, so she's kind of seasoned at whatever it is she does, and she's very bitter, and she's very just like, very, I don't know, just very tight in demeanor and everything. I mean, she reminded me a lot of Rachel Wise, but less fun. For some reason, they have dinner together, and Leelee Sobieski's character is just dressed normal, whereas Miss Grose, who comes by, is just being so frigid and distant. She's wearing like this, this evening dress, like, as if she was, gonna go to the Emmys afterwards or something. I didn't understand why she was dressed that way. This was their first night together. They're just co-workers, and even Anna, Leelee's character, she's trying to be nice, and Miss Grose is like, I'm not here to be your friend. And that's, and wow, I mean, by the end of that movie, that relationship between those two, there's a sexual tension there, and I understand, I guess I understand why, but I didn't really propel the plot, because eventually, the other kid comes along and things start getting weird, and these two adults, I can't tell. I mean, like I said, maybe I should have reread the novel. I mean, I didn't know it was based on a Henry James novel, but I was very confused. They had the adults, these two women, it's just these two women and these two kids in the house, and I haven't even gotten to the ghosts and stuff, but basically they have this kind of, I don't know, it's not a power struggle, because it's not really like that. It's not like as if, it's that kind of movie. I mean, it does get to a kind of point towards the end where it's like that, where it's almost a power struggle, but, these kids get afraid of, a ghost, but you're not sure why. You do know why, because before Anna came to take care of these kids, there was another teacher that from the same school that Miss Veigh came from, that was taking care of these kids, and something happened to her, and it's not really clear what it is, but I don't know, maybe this movie needs a second watch, but it's just the reason why it's confusing isn't so much that you don't know with anything that's going on. It's just that they have these things happen. There's a ghost, and it's haunting the lake behind this giant house, and you're kind of trying to figure out, well, what's up with the ghost, and who's this other ghost, because there's there's another character that apparently was with the previous children's caretaker, that had something to do with the previous caretaker's disappearance, and they throw a lot of different things at you in a vague way. So, I like I said, I mean, maybe if I read the novel, I might have gotten some idea what the hell was going on. I didn't watch that Netflix special, The Haunting of Bly Manor. I didn't watch that, and so I don't know how much is, these two are kind of one and the same. I remember in the, not Bly Manor, but the other one, The House on Haunted Hill, there was a lesbian character in the book. So I don't know if there, I mean, in Turn of the Screw, like I said, I might not have read it. But I couldn't be wrong that there might have been an actual lesbian lover in the original book. I don't know. Now, as the movie goes on, they start. Well, it's mostly just Anna that starts seeing these weird things. There is some. I mean, I believe there's a ghost, but it doesn't seem to be so much bothering the children as it does Anna. Leelee Sobieski. Now, like I said, you're not sure at first if there really is a ghost, because right away it's like they try to make it seem like that she might be the only one seeing these things. That Anna is, she might be out of her head because she's a victim of sexual assault. So I guess that's kind of the implication, is that this might not be real. She might just be crazy. The movie is only 95 minutes, but it feels a lot longer, and some of the stuff just kind of draws out. They keep making the relationship between Miss Grose and Anna. It keeps going back and forth. Well, first they're kind of being nice to each other, and then it kind of regresses back to I don't like you, and it's like then it goes back. But each time it goes back, they get a little bit friendlier. And then when it goes back the other way, they get a little bit, bitter towards each other. They get a little more aggravated towards each other. And, of course, by the end of the movie, when they're being nice to each other, they're having sex. And when they're not, when it's going the other way, one's ready to kill the other, like literally kill them. So, it's just such an extreme back and forth. So when I was seeing that, I was beginning to believe that I think they're going to just make it that Anna's crazy, that there isn't really a ghost, that she's just losing her mind because she's been sexually assaulted, and I'm not sure if that's what the deal was. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was an actual ghost. I mean, in Turn of the Screw there was an actual ghost, but how movies are nowadays, they loosely base them on original works to and just take ideas. I mean, they didn't even, I don't remember in the credits them even mentioning it was based on the Henry James novel, this movie, but they might have, I just might have missed it. But, I mean, they do pick and choose what they take out of original works and, try to work around it. So, this movie has a lot of dark themes, and it's very sexual. There are numerous shots of Leelee Sobieski's cleavage. I was just kind of caught off guard by that, because I'm just expecting a regular horror movie, and there's it's just these two women and trying to take care of these two kids, and so I didn't expect a big lesbian relationship to break out. I don't care, it didn't bother me. I just didn't think that was going to happen, because in the very beginning, like I said, there's sort of this Miss Grose, she's really mean to Leelee Sobieski, so I didn't expect it to become sexual, because it was just she was just so distant and cold. It was like, it's like, she's really gonna have sex with this lady after how mean she's been. And the funniest part is when Leelee Sobieski does have sex with her, she looks almost like she's being assaulted. Like it seems like she didn't want to do it. Like the character, I don't know if the actress herself didn't want to do it, but the character certainly seemed kind of taken aback that she was going to do it, because it seemed like she was having sex with Miss Grose, but only, for some other reason. It wasn't because she was attracted to her or she liked her. It seemed like she was just doing it just for whatever reason. I mean, I couldn't really figure out why she seemed so awkward about it. And I understand that she was supposed to be like a bookish kind of woman, but, it didn't seem like she was shy. It seemed like she was just kind of like grossed out by it. She seemed like, it was like it was so awkward. It wasn't romantic in any way, because it wasn't like hardcore sex. It was just, like two people making love, and Anna, Leelee's character, she just seemed kind of more turned off, and it just like, and it made me think, well, maybe she's doing it to figure something else out, which I'm guessing that's what the case was. But let me tell you something about this movie. There's a lot of loose ends that never get tied up. Like I said, maybe I should read the Henry James novel, because I was so confused by a lot of it, and some of it made some sense, but it was just, I tell you, this movie was so confusing and so vague in certain parts of the story. The dad, or the dad, the uncle that's taking care of these two kids, the nephew and the niece. He says, "Don't call me for anything." And about 3/4 of the way through the movie, when things are starting to get really crazy, Anna calls him. He doesn't pick up. She just leaves a message. But then that's it. You never hear anything after. If he ever comes back, or if he calls, or nothing. It just, that's what was the point? I mean, I understand there might be a reason to it. Just like, well, they just want to show that she's trying to help the kids, and it's like, yeah, but why even go to that length with it? She's just going to leave a message. This seems like the type of guy that would just hang up, or his secretary would hang up for any stupid thing like that, or whatever. I mean, this movie is it's very confusing in what it does. Like I said, there's a lot of loose ends that don't get tied up, and the end, the end is it's confusing, because by then you get the sense that there is a ghost, but there's also Anna, Leelee, Sobieski's character, is also part of the problem, because it's when it gets to the last 15 minutes, her and Miss Grose are ready to kill each other, because Anna keeps going on about there being a ghost, and nobody believes her. Miss Grose doesn't believe her, because the whole time they're trying to make you think it's in Anna's head, that there's no real ghost. And even the kids are kind of like, she's crazy. They don't, they're not buying into it either. And what's funny is, by the end, you see what the problem is. Anna is part of the problem, but I think there's a ghost. It didn't seem clear enough to me that there was a ghost. I mean, there probably was, or maybe Anna, Leelee's character, was possessed by a spirit, because there's a whole subplot to the relationship between Miss Grose and the previous caretaker, and Mr. Quint, who apparently stole the original caretaker from Miss Grose. And like I said, the story doesn't make any sense, because they try and make it seem like that Miss Grose had something to do with the previous caretaker, dying, because the whole time, it's everyone's acting like it's not a big deal. The kids and Miss Grose. Anna's the only one that's kind of like, when somebody died, and everyone's like, it's fine. The kids are fine. I'm fine. You're fine. Everybody's fine. Now, it's when Anna does her little bit of investigating that she figures some stuff out, that Miss Grose was with the previous caretaker, or children's caretaker as well, in a sexual relationship, but she gets stolen by Mr. Quint. Now, I don't know what the hell they meant. I don't know why that was part of the plot, because it didn't seem like relevant to anything. I mean, so what? I mean, maybe she just didn't want to be with Miss Grose, and she preferred guys. I mean, I just didn't understand the whole point of having this previous relationship that had nothing to do with the woman's death. The previous caretaker's name was Miss Jessel, and she was not into Miss Grose, and she was Miss Jessel was into the guy, Mr. Quint. So you'd think they would make it that Miss Grose did something, like she caused Quint's death, because he apparently was gone too. But let's just focus on Jessel, because that would have made the most sense, is that Jessel got killed by Miss Grose, but that doesn't appear to be what happens. And as the movie, like I said, as the movie goes on, Anna starts having these visions, or hallucinations, or dreams, or whatever the fuck you would call it. And after a while, as I said before, everybody becomes afraid of her. There's something up, and what pisses me off is the ending, because the ending, there were so many loose ends. The little girl, throughout the whole movie, she talks about having to use her inhaler because she has asthma, and at the end, Miss Grose takes the little girl to the hospital. Well, they don't take her. The ambulance comes for her. And as all this stuff is going on, Miss Grose says, has Anna say, "You stay with the boy." Now, remember, at this point in time, they were already at each other's throats. Crazy shit was going on in Anna's head that they already knew about. And yet, they had to take the little girl to the hospital because she was having a severe asthma attack. And so she has to leave the boy with Leelee. And the ambulance leaves, and we never see them again. And the movie just continues on without Miss Grose and the little girl. We don't know what happens to the little girl. We know that she had a severe asthma attack, but we never find out what happens to her. And then Anna frightens the little boy, because that's what she kind of does for the last half of the movie, is act really weird. And the little boy runs away. And he runs into the forest behind the house where there's a lake. And for some reason, I don't know if this kid... This is part of the problem with this movie, is this kid, he could have ran anywhere. It's a big manor, and there's a big forest. And for some reason, this kid runs straight, directly to the pond behind the house, and climbs on a fallen tree that hangs over the water to escape Anna. Now, I like I said, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe, in the movie was trying to make it that place was that area, that pond behind the house was a safe place for the kids, and that's why he went there. I didn't get that because, maybe I'm an idiot because I just am. But for some reason, he, climbs on this tree that's hanging over this icy water, and Lena catches up, and she doesn't do anything. She just stands right at the edge of the pond where the water is, and for either a ghost or this kid's stupidity causes him to go underwater and drown. And, you're basically left questioning what the fuck just happened. Like I said, I know the story the plot rundown is kind of vague and back and forth and all over the place, what I just described, but that's this movie. Because I only found out a few minutes before I started recording that this was based on the Henry James novel, The Turn of the Screw. Really? I must have been reading the wrong book or the wrong page on Wikipedia, but I looked it up, and that's what it's based on. I was just kind of blown away. Now, this movie had a budget of $5 million, and it's an English movie. It originally came out, I think, in the United Kingdom, and then America probably not long after that. Excuse me. On Rotten Tomatoes, there's no tomato meter score, but there is a 10% audience score. And, I don't know why this movie was so bad when it had such a good story to go off of. And there were so many dark themes. There's child molestation and sexual assault and physical assault, and these kids being turned to orphans to this cold rich uncle. This movie had a lot of potential. It had Leelee Sobieski. She's a pretty good actress. I don't think she acts anymore. I think she retired. I'm not sure, but she was. A lot of stuff she was in was pretty decent. It's not like she was a bad actress. Some of the stuff she was in, in the late '90s and early 2000s, it wasn't that bad. So I was really surprised to see someone this talented and be in such a horrible movie. The IMDb rating is less than 5. It's 4.4. So that's, I would have given it like a 2. this movie is it's not very good. It's horrible. And, like a Henry James novel. I mean, I shouldn't be too surprised because, there's Stephen King books that have turned into movies that were complete pieces of shit. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised, but, I always am. Whenever they take a very good book, very good scary novel, and just turns into a piece of shit, And that's a real shame because I feel like this movie was just made to show Leelee Sobieski's cleavage, because you will get a lot of cleavage shots. This movie loves boobs, or it loves her boobs, But that's it. That's the movie. It's available on Tubi. It's Tubi's free, and I wouldn't I wouldn't advocate renting this movie or buying a copy of it. It's not worth it. Watch it on Tubi if you got to watch it. Anyway. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please spin dash that like and sub button, and I'll see you around. Hikeeba.